What's up guys, my name is ESO and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be giving you a full guide on the one-handed skill. We'll be talking about what perks are the best to use and which ones are actually useless. Because I bet you there are some perks that you currently might be using that are actually just a complete waste of a perk point. I've probably put over 3,000 hours into this game, but I'm still going to back myself up with some figures so you guys can see the difference. I also have a leveling guide if you guys want to know how to quickly level up your one-handed skill, link down below in the description if you need it. So to start off, we're going to talk about the Armsman perk. This perk is hands down the best perk in the skill tree to increase your damage output with a one-handed weapon. With each perk you do another 20% more damage, and once maxed out you'll do double damage with all one-handed weapons. And that also includes daggers for sneak attacks, so do bear that in mind if you're building a sneaky character. Next we have 3 possible perks if you're using either a sword, a mace or an axe. Let's start out with the Bladesman perk if you're using a sword. Now this is actually one of the worst perks, to be honest. Rather sadly, because it sounds like it should be really good. It's meant to boost your critical damage by 20% at rank 3. But in Skyrim, a lot of people don't know this, but your critical damage is actually calculated from the base damage of the sword you're using. So for example, a Daedric sword has a base damage of 14. This means it crits for 7 extra damage, which is half the weapon's base damage. So even if you have a Daedric sword that does 1000 damage, it doesn't matter. It still has a base damage of 14 and it still only gives you 7 extra damage. So this means that with 3 out of 3 in the Bladesman perk, a Daedric sword will do an extra 10 critical damage 20% of the time. That's an average damage per second of 2. That is absolutely terrible. Never get this perk, it's literally useless. Now we move on to the hack and slash perk, and I wish I could tell you this perk was better. We use this perk with axe weapons, and assuming you have level 100 one-handed skill and 5 out of 5 in the Armsman perk, a legendary Daedric war axe would deal 75 damage per hit, and it would cause 3 bleed damage over 6 seconds. And that's with 3 out of 3 in the hack and slash perk. By the time a large amount of bleed damage can be inflicted on the target, you probably have already killed them. Literally, the amount of damage you do with the bleeding effect is so small that it's literally worthless. There's no point in it. And especially bear in mind that enemies like the Draga, which are very common, or the Dwarven Automatrons, cannot actually bleed anyway. So this perk is it's useless. Don't get this perk. Next we have the Bonebreaker perk, and this is for if you like to use a mace. This will only affect enemies that wear armor, so already we're off to a bad start, and I mean enemies like Chorus, Draga or Dragons, despite looking armored, actually aren't, even though they have an armor value. On the other hand, you have Bandit Marauders, who are the highest leveled non-boss bandit enemies in the entire game, and they'll usually have a physical damage resistance of about 30 or 40%. Depending on what items they spawn with, so some of them might be armed in like full glass armor or something like that. This means that 3 out of 3 in the Bonebreaker perk will increase the damage per second against them by 30 to 40%, because you'll be ignoring their armor. So it's okay, it's just very situational. And personally, I don't really like maces, so rule me out. Things can only get better from here, right? Because next we have the Fighting Stance perk, and this will reduce the stamina cost of all power attacks by 25%. This is very good, especially if you're using a dual wield character as well, because you still reduce the amount of stamina cost for your dual wield power attacks, which are very important when you're dual wielding weapons. Next up we have the Savage Strike perk. This makes standing power attacks do 25% bonus damage with a chance to decapitate your enemies. Sounds pretty fun. Power attacks in Skyrim do double damage. So if you have a sword that does 40 damage and you power attack, you will do 80 damage. If you have the Savage Strike perk, you will now do 90 damage. So the perk isn't that bad, it adds a little bit of extra damage. But if you are going to get it, I would get it later in the game when your weapon does a lot of damage, because then this perk will be more useful. Instead of getting this perk though, you'll probably find that the critical charge perk is more useful. This doubles the amount of critical damage that you'll do. So for example, if you use the Daedric Sword again, you'll be doing plus 14 extra damage instead of 7 damage. So it's only really useful when you get the more powerful like late game weapons like the Daedric Sword, the Dragonbone Sword or a Glass Sword. When doing double critical attack damage will actually make a little bit of a difference. But the main reason I like to get it is because it adds a running jump animation to your running power attacks. So now you can leap at enemies and strike them down like the absolute savage you are. And come on man, that just looks so goddamn cool. Who doesn't want this in their life? You need this. At the very top of the skill tree we have a perk called Paralyzing Strike. This perk makes it so backwards power attacks have a 25% chance to paralyze your targets. And paralyzation in Skyrim is very powerful, because if someone's paralyzed, they can't attack you back and they can't defend themselves. So you can literally just go ham on them and just wreck them. In my opinion, this is the most useful perk if you're dual wielding or using a spell sword build. And I'm actually working on one of those at the moment. I am at the point where I'm playtesting the build. So as soon as that comes out, check it out, because it's going to be good. So as you can see, when you're quite low on health, if you walk backwards, you can defend yourself by using that Paralyzing Strike to stop oncoming attackers. It does require a little bit of timing, but the best thing about it is it gives you an offensive defensive weapon, if you know what I'm saying. Now you will find that if you use a shield and a sword, that you won't use this perk as much, because it's actually much more useful to use the shield to bash your enemy and then just attack them instead, to stop them attacking or get their guard down. And then you've also got the shield charge perk as well, and that's just so much better than the paralyzation perk. So I would only get it if you're using a spell sword build or a dual wielding character build. Lastly, let's talk about dual wielding weapons. Let's talk about being an absolute badass. We first have the McFlurry perk, also known as Dual Flurry, but it sounds like every time I read this I just want to call it McFlurry. At rank 2, it will make dual wielding power attacks 20% faster. This is a solid pick for increasing your damage per second by 20%, so definitely get this. And lastly, we have Dual Savagery, possibly the most savage perk in this skill tree. This perk increases the damage of dual wielding power attacks by 50%. Currently, when you do a power attack, you hit 3 times, as you can see. And while power attacking, you do 1.5 times more damage. You also use half the amount of stamina than a normal power attack. So that actually makes dual wield power attacks one of the best forms of power attacks in the game, because you can use them twice as much for a higher damage per second. So they're a lot better than just using one-handed power attacks. But if you have 2 swords that do 10 damage each, and you hit 3 times for 15 damage a hit, you'll do a total damage of 45 for that dual power attack. But if you have the Dual Savagery perk, you will instead hit for 22.5 damage each hit, for a total dual power attack damage of 67.5. So that is a drastic increase in damage. It's incredibly good, especially considering that you're only using 2 swords which do 10 damage each. Later on in the game, you'll definitely have access to 2 swords that do at least 30 plus damage each. So, you know, the more powerful your weapons, the more damage you'll do with this perk. It's a fantastic perk, definitely get it. Obviously not if you're not dual wielding, don't get it. I hope this video sheds some light on what the best perks are for a one-handed skilled character. As you guys know, I like to make a lot of Skyrim build videos, and I've actually got a few coming up, so I'm very excited about that. But I thought doing this kind of format would be a very good way for you guys to say to yourself, okay, well, I want to make a one-handed character, can go and watch this video and then figure out the best way I want to build my character that suits me. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to do some more videos like this for each different skill to tell you guys which skills are the best and which ones are not very good. So if you have a request, go ahead and comment down below and say, can you do this one next? If you are interested in seeing more, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and also hit that little bell icon next to the subscriber button, because then YouTube will actually notify you whenever I release a new skill guide video for you guys to watch. And if you want to go that extra mile and support the channel, you can also go ahead and support me on Patreon, which is also linked down below. And I'm going to make a whole playlist for these skill videos that you'll find linked down below in the description. Actually, I'm working on like 4 different builds right now, so I'm really excited to like show you these. But at the moment, I'm in like the theory crafting stage. So I like to create a build and then think about what it's going to be like and how you're going to play the game using this character. And then with one of the builds at the moment, I'm at like the playtesting stage. So I've built the character and I'm kind of like messing about with it and thinking, does this work? You know, can you kill dragons with this build? Or does it need more help in this area? And then I try and condense all those facts down into a hopefully under 20-minute video, which would be the build guide. Because I know some of my more recent builds have been rather long. And I want to ask you guys quickly actually, do you think it's better for me to make a short build video or a more in-depth build video, which ends up as a longer video, but I will literally go over every single individual thing? I find that for the shorter videos, I get tons of people asking questions like, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I'm like, oh, I could have just explained that in the video. I just thought you guys knew. But yeah, I'll try and focus on that in the future, I think. But let me know your feedback in the comments about what you guys want. And also, guys, have a fantastic day and goodbye.